Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it might be where you guys are right now. Thank you for tuning into the Shifted Perspective YouTube channel. My name is Brandon, and if you can't already tell, we're going to do things a little differently today. Apparently, you guys like when I do some voiceovers. I have a decent radio voice. It seemed like from the last video. So today we're going to do a January 2020 wash update on the E92 M3. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with my Krensla 1122 TST electric pressure washer, 2.1 gallons per minute. And of course, the 2-bucket method. It's the usual. It's what I've been doing on the channel for the last few years now. I really love it. We are also going to be using a Mosmatic gun and wand combination with the quick disconnect set. All from Matt at Obsessed Garage. Thank you for providing the solution. Super easy to connect the different tips, the wands, and of course, the infamous foam cannon. So for the wheels, I primarily use P&S Brake Buster. It's really great. It's not super aggressive, does not have iron fallout remover, which is fine because you don't need that every time you wash the wheels. And it's also really good on the tires. I used to use Adams Eco wheel cleaner combined with their tire and rubber cleaner, which actually worked pretty well. But for now, the P&S wheel cleaner is my go-to. I also have some heavy duty wheel cleaner that I actually just use on the exhaust tips just to break up the nasties. So I'm not going to bore you guys with the whole wheel detailing procedure. You guys get it. I actually use a 25-degree tip in the pressure washer, blast off the wheels, apply the P&S Brake Buster, go to town, have a good time. And of course, the next step is to thoroughly rinse the car top to bottom. Pretty self-explanatory, but if you're new here, maybe just in case you wanted that reiterated to you, I don't use a CR spotless or anything like that, whether I am rinsing now or afterwards. I've never really had an issue with water spots, and it was just kind of adding extra work when I didn't really see the payoff. And I normally use Adams car shampoo applied on the Adams wash mitt. I just apply the car shampoo to both sides of the wash mitt, throw it in the bucket, and then use the pressure washer to make a ton of suds, because obviously the more soap suds, the better. Then we get our PF22 foam cannon, throw some soap in it. I usually use like about 4 to 6 ounces of soap. Don't ask me exactly how much because it kind of varies, but I will tell you, if you put less water in the foam cannon, of course, the mixture will usually come out more foamy, so I usually fill it to only about halfway for the M3. I don't really wash my cars when they're so disgustingly dirty that I need to use more foam than half of what the foam cannon can hold. And also the cars aren't that big, so normally I just fill it to about halfway, and it has a nice concentration of soap and water. And of course, some infamous foam cannon footage. Super fun, but not sure how effective this really is in real life. It's nice to kind of have it drag some of the dirt down off the car, provide some extra lubrication, but it's definitely fun, and it doesn't really add a ton of time to the process. And the neighbors think you're definitely psycho when you spray your car with what looks like shaving cream. And as you guys can see, I used pretty much just half the foam cannon with a little bit left over, so there's no need to use more than that unless you're washing like a big truck or something like that. I dump it in the clean bucket, and a little trick to clean out your foam cannon is to just slide the straw into the rinse bucket, squeeze it for a little bit, and that rinses the foam cannon out. You'll be good to go for next time. So what would a wash update procedure video be without a 2-bucket method? If you guys are here, you probably already know what that is. Obviously, you have a rinse bucket, and then you have a soap bucket. So my soap bucket is the one that the wash mitt goes in before it touches the car. I usually use like half the wash mitt goes on one side of the roof, and I flip it over and then use the other side on the other half of the roof. And I usually, work in a 4x4 foot pattern. It just depends on what panel of the car I'm on. And then of course I go back to the red bucket, which is red is rinse, red is bad, red is alert. Guys do it the other way around. I really don't understand why. But anyways, that is my procedure. Grit guards in both of them, and then the washboard, which is like the little 45-degree one, that is in the red bucket. Just makes it a little bit easier so you don't have to slide half your arm into the bucket to rinse off the wash pad. And here's kind of something that's funny. As you can see, I wash the top first, kind of do the windows, and then I go to the back of the M3. And the reason for that is actually because the back is the only part that doesn't have PPF on it. So my theory is that chances are less that I will scratch the car if I wash the exposed painted surfaces first. Chances of contamination in the buckets is less earlier on in the wash. If you sort of think about it, by the end of the wash, your buckets are going to be filled with more dirty water than at the beginning. So if I'm going to wash any painted surface, I'm going to do it first. Even though a lot of guys, do a side or the front first. It doesn't really matter, I guess, but that's just kind of the way I do the M3. For the M5, I'm not super particular because none of the car has PPF on it. So I usually just start with one side and then go all the way around in a uniform pattern. And here's something I want to point out to you guys. I'm using 5-gallon buckets, and what's really important that you guys should know is you should literally be using as much soap and water as possible, obviously within reason. But my point is saying when you're done washing, your rinse bucket and also your soap bucket should not have a ton of water in it, because if it does, then you haven't used a lot of water on your car as extra lubrication and rinsing it down. Look, the red bucket, which is the rinse one, is like less than halfway full, and I'm cleaning a freaking M3. So if you're washing a truck or an SUV, you should pretty much be filling this thing up halfway through your wash. That's just my personal take. When I would wash my Jeep, I would actually have to fill up one of them partially through it. Just make sure you use a wash pad that holds a lot of water and you'll be fine. Obviously, after we're done washing, give it a thorough rinse, top to bottom. As I mentioned, I don't use the CR Spotless. I'm washing in the shade. I don't have a lot of minerals in the water. I've never had an issue, so let's keep it simple here. We like to overcomplicate things on the channel sometimes, but this is not one of those times. And how can I forget to mention how I blow off the car? Yes, I blow off the car. It has G-Technic Crystal Serum Light. So it has a coating on it on top of the entire paint. I use a little DeWalt blower that uses my battery. I'm actually trying out a Ryobi today just for fun. It's a little more powerful, but I'm not sure I'm going to stick with it. But that's what I do to blow off the car. Okay, so here's something I've struggled with my entire life, besides being normal, is the rust on the rotors. So what I do, which is going to sound literally psychotic, is I put a little paper towel, I'll show you this in a second here, under the rotor, kind of in the middle. And also I use the Hyde's rust stopper, which a lot of guys I know use, but I just started using it, and I would say instead of the rotors rusting, maybe they rust like 5% less or 10% less. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. It actually like crystallizes on the rotor, so it kind of like freezes it. But unfortunately, that crystallized whatever liquid drips off the rotor onto your wheel. So guess what? You're gonna have crystallized, nasty, rusty spots on your wheel. That's just as bad as before. So I don't see this as a solution, but I do use it a little bit because it helps like a little bit. But you'll see the paper towels afterwards. There's nasty rust drippings all over it. This is something that I'm really like anal about for some reason. Guys, definitely comment below if you have a better solution, because I don't have a better one. This is like a terrible solution, but this is just what I'm doing for now. And time for tire dressing. My favorite is CarPro Pearl. I've used it for many, many years. I had my old bottle for like 2 to 3 years. It's perfect. I don't really dilute it at all. I don't see the point. Just don't use too much and it won't be that shiny. It's water-based. It's not silicone-based. It's not going to sling. And you can dilute it if you want, but people do 50-50 and it's just kind of annoying. So I just put a little bit on the foam block applicator, spread it around evenly, and it's perfect. I don't like too shiny of a tire, but it doesn't really leave too shiny of a tire in my experience. So it works really well, easy to work with. And if you want to buff it down to being less shiny, it's also really versatile as well. So today we're going to be using PNS Bead Maker as our drying aid. the last 2 or 3 washes, I actually didn't even use the drying aid. I blew off the car without touching it. But today we're actually going to be adding a sacrificial layer, as some people call it, sacrificial, in case bird poop hits it. Usually easier to deal with that if it has a extra little layer. I don't know if that's really true, but we're going to be doing it today. I kind of resisted using Beadmaker because everyone's using it and it's like super popular and everyone's freaking out about it. But today we're just going to bite the bullet and do it just for fun. Beadmaker, really easy to use on plastics and pretty much any part of the car. I just use it on the painted surfaces and like on the door jambs on the plastic as well. It's kind of made for plastic as well, so it's fine. Easy to use, really thin, it doesn't gum up, and it definitely leaves a really glossy surface afterwards, especially like later, like a couple hours later. It's kind of cool actually. You come back and you're like, whoa. And for the windows, I keep it very simple. I don't use Beadmaker on it. I just use Griot's window cleaner with a waffle weave towel. Keep it simple. I currently have protection on all of the windows. I keep it simple actually on the side and the back windows. I have Griot's window sealant, super cheap, works really well on the side windows, and on the front I have I think on the M5 I have Wolf's glass sealant, and then on the M3 I have CarPro Flyby. I actually forget if that's what I still have on there, but I don't really see the need of putting a coating on the side windows or the back because there's like not air pushing the water off, and it just seems like a waste. So I like to save a little bit of money, which is kind of dumb because I spend it all on everything else on this channel. But yeah, that's what I like to do, and just kind of keep it simple when I'm drying the windows. And oh look, we're finally done after 95 technical difficulties. You guys don't even want to know what I dealt with trying to film this stupid video, but hopefully you appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up if you're still here. Here is the M3 all fine. It's all done in all of its glory. It's actually seen a lot of outside recently getting worked on. There'll be an update here soon on the channel, but thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.